Ooh. Everything's unstable. Love a mood. Psst. Psst. This is ASMR now. This is where you belong. This is weird. Oh God, look at me. This is actually beautiful. Hold on. Okay. So the reason we are this close is because the sun is out. And it's right here where I usually film. Hey guys, welcome back to The Hideaway. It's me, Douglas, and today we're talking about the 6th entry into The Hideaway entitled A Sweet Release. So we're going to be breaking it down today. And just like Black Cadillac Nightmare Fuel, this was originally meant to be a song, but I did rework it for the spoken word part of it to sound more like a poem versus singing it verse, chorus, verse, etc. However, this song, the way I wrote it and like the story behind it, kind of allowed for me to kind of read it almost in one narrative piece, but you get the point. Some little context for this song is about another breakup, because leave your Taylor Swift jokes at the door because we're not here for it. It is about a breakup. So this relationship happened at the beginning of 2016 and ended very shortly after. And I actually wrote this last year in 2019. I decided to include it because it has a lot of like that escapism imagery and like storytelling that we're telling now. So I thought it fit the bill. So I figured let's go ahead and talk about my ex from 4 years ago. I hope you're well, Steven. Yes, I will be name dropping. It's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this breakdown. And here we go. So the first verse section was very interesting because, as I've told you multiple times in my writing, I kind of get this idea, I get the title, and I get this idea and I start writing. And when I wrote this first section, again, no idea it was going to be about Steven at all. So it really paints like a dark picture, but like it's still kind of romanticized. And this song kind of like contemplates like the what ifs of that relationship, but then also I have to like be faced with like the reality of what actually happened in that relationship. So it's very interesting with this first section because it kind of, we take a 180 than you would expect, but there's like a little like hints of like foreshadowing in there, which is fun. So we decided to take the long way home. Your hand on my thigh leaves me desperate for more. Just a simple touch of life. I can't ever think of something more grand. So just painting a picture there for you. We're obviously in the car, we're driving together. It's a very intimate moment for us. But I kind of wanted it to be like, I feel like, I hope that imagery kind of like sinks into that. It's like maybe like nighttime, so there's darkness around them, etc. The streetlights glow so effervescently. Again, it's like just more romanticized language. But again, you know you're at the nighttime, you're in darkness because the streetlights are on. Your face illuminated in shadows of demons. So again, that's kind of like the little bit of foreshadowing that's gonna take a turn in a moment, because how is that romantic that like you see your partner's face and all you see is demons, like the shadows of demons around them. Like that's can be creepy, but it sounds romantic with everything else that I've painted before that. And then you say, darling, can we drive forever? So again, we're driving together. And in this like fantasy imagery in my head, like this, like, can we drive forever would symbolize like, can this relationship go on forever? And then it says, I tighten my grip on your gaze, eyes off the road. I said, of course. So it's very interesting because like in my mind, whenever I write like song lyrics, I always envision like a music video sometimes. So I feel like in the music video, yes, you would see these two people driving, but like this guy takes his eyes off the road to look at his partner and say, yes, of course. And then like, it's like a car crash, because that's what happened inevitably. Is that like, whether it was both of us or just me, like we pretended like this relationship could last for a while, and it got dangerous and it ended. I think it's fun to kind of set up this story and then have it take this like sharp 180 into like a different territory, because that's kind of what happens in life too. You think you're going on this one path, then all of a sudden you're going down a different one. That's that first verse. And so it kind of sets up the chorus, which is the second section that I've the chorus I constructed into the second section of the poem. And so this is kind of like right at the end of it, and we're again not super sure, like, or I'm not super sure about what kind of happened between us. It's kind of, for me, it was like an omnipotent thing, like keeping us apart. I'll just break it down because I'm not making any sense right now. I haven't had any coffee, I just woke up. What kind of magic could ever be more real than the magnetic field keeping us apart? So again, it's this like omnipotent thing. It's like nothing that we did. It's some other force that's keeping us apart, when in reality, it is the fact that we just didn't work together. There's something in my way. There's something in that day. Lots of rhyming scheme here. So there's something in my way. It's basically saying, like, again, it's something else. It's not me, or it's not, you know, him. Again, can't speak for Stephen, but like trying to make it work. So if it wasn't happening, it was something else keeping us apart. And there's something in that day. So in that day would be the day we broke up. And I remember what you said. It cut deeper than any scar I could make myself. Lots of things were said. Faults on my end, faults on his end. Lots of things were said. And I took a lot of it personally into heart. And that's on me. But you said you loved me, and I said I did too. So again, regardless of what was happening between us, we both were like, we love each other. And I think we did at some point for that brief time we were together. But c'est la vie, so is life. But we asked for a sweet release. The breakup, again, the sweet release was our, like that, the breakup was our sweet release from each other because it got real bad. And so we needed to end it. And now everything before and after this is just a longing daydream, a forgotten memory. So that'll kind of like, that'll like foreshadow into the next section, because again, we talk about a lot of like my what ifs and like my other thoughts about the relationship and things like that. But like none of it is real because the relationship ended. Now it's over like 4.5 years ago. Now I'm wishing for a different kind of sweet release. So I kind of like think back to Hideaway now, because I wrote Hideaway this year and I wrote this song last year. And so again, I'm kind of seeking something to like help me get over this like relationship and this person. And so the sweet release that I had was getting away from him, but now like when I wrote this 3 years later, I'm still stuck thinking about him, which is life. It happens. This next section, again, you get to more like some of the what ifs and kind of the reminiscing thoughts that I was having at the time. So Christmas vacations in the Palm Springs, yearly visits to your family, can I see you dancing in the Halloween lights? So these are like scenarios that like if this relationship was to go on forever, like we had both said it could, this is like what we would have done, is like all these different plans and these trips and all these memories we could have made together. And I especially like, can I see you dancing in the Halloween lights? Because it's just like different. You always think like Christmas lights and like, or like whatever lights, but like for me, Halloween is my favorite holiday, hands down. So it's fun to just have that little like imagery in there for Halloween. Because to me, I don't think you ever like hear that a lot. So I think that was fun. That was cool. Good job, me. A frightening love story that never came true. So again, reminiscing on it now, it's like I could see all the red flags after the fact. Like hindsight was very 2020. I probably saw some during the relationship, but I was just like, whatever, we're in love. I was 21. It was so stupid. Sorry, Steven. The relationship was like 4 months old. I don't know. It was 4 or 5 months, something like that. And again, all the what ifs about like, oh, we'll be together forever and like all blah, blah, blah. And then something happened and switch flipped. So here we are. It was a nightmare to see you stand there. And this line's, it's kind of a little out of place, but it's like, again, I'm like going through my like reminiscing thoughts. And again, a lot of it's stream of consciousness. So like whatever came out was just in that quick moment, I felt this and then I kind of moved on. But that kind of ties back into the second section. There's something in that day, and I remember what you said. Like the way, like I remember the night the relationship ended, like I was a wreck, and like, so again, it was a nightmare to see him stand there because of all the things that was being said. The way you touched my body, the way you made it seem like I was enough. So again, it's like, I'm thinking back to like all the things that were done and said in the relationship was like, made it seem like it could work. These next 2 lines are kind of interesting because I've had a friend tell me that they could be interpreted differently. So I'm gonna try and remember what he said. maybe I am enough for a version of you that only exists when I'm feeling blue. So in my head, I was like, now like sitting alone like 3 years later, I was like, I could have been enough for this person. I could have been like the version of me he wanted me to be, but I only think about these things when I'm sad. And I think what my friend was saying is that like, if like, even when we were together, it was like whenever I was down or sad in the relationship, he was there for me and he would take care of me. And then like, so that version of him that I saw, obviously I was enough for him, but it was only because I was sad or like whatever. So I like that line a lot. Like that's the line to me that like kind of resonated with this whole piece and like made it special for me. Because I think a lot of times, to quote The Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's probably been quoted to death, but like, we accept the love we think we deserve. And I think a lot of times when people are very like self-deprecating and things like that, like we grasp onto like the very tiniest things that like resemble love. And I think this line was me kind of confessing that like I wouldn't have been enough for this person in hindsight, and like I can't go back to be like, if I was as like sad and like messed up as I was then thinking about like who I could have been for him or who he could have been for me. Like it's just, it is what it is at the end of the day, and we'll just sit and reminisce in our thoughts about it. The last line of the section is, so can we cut back to when I never met you? And it's so weird. I have you, blue, you. It's like, that's a weird rhyming scheme. I obviously have no creativity or imagination whatsoever. So yeah, and like at this point, because it's like 3 years later, I'm still like thinking about it and reminiscing on it. Like, can I just like pretend I never met you? That way I don't have to think about it. That kind of scenario. The next section is kind of like what would have been the bridge. It's our fourth section now. So my hands are aching from this subtle diss. So typing hand, whatever. And it's kind of a subtle diss because like, again, I'm not blaming Steven for like anything. He did a lot wrong, I did a lot wrong, but it's not anyone's specific fault. But it's like, it feels like there's like little jabs, especially that version of you that only exists when blue. Like that can be seen as like a subtle diss. So it's just a little more like tongue-in-cheek thing, really. Could you ever stop to think it was just a kiss? And like the way most relationships start is, you know, you have your first kiss and you're like, ah, it's magic. And it's like, if it now it's like this what if of like, if it was just a kiss, like it could have been like, that's all it was. And we could have avoided all this. I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned. Battle scar wounds have made my heart firm. So that's just kind of like more cliche things. Sorry, my battery tried to die on me. So yeah, it's just very like cliche imagery of like, oh, all my scars are my battle armor now. Whatever. But now I'm stuck in an endless loop, forever wishing I could forget about you. And at that time last year, it's like, I wasn't like constantly thinking about him. I always like kind of go back and like, I'm like, oh, that happened in Florida. Like, yes, whatever. But like when I wrote the song, I was just like reliving all the things that like went wrong and what happened. It's just like, I don't want to do that where it's like on repeat in my head. So yeah, it still resonates. I don't really think about that relationship too much, but obviously I wrote a song about it. So we're doing great. These daydreams come and go. And again, back to that last line, it's like, and again, it also goes back to the second section where it's like, everything before and after this is just longing daydream. So again, all this reminiscent is just fantasies in my head. These next few sections are a little weird because again, it's kind of going back into like the what ifs of the whole thing. You wish I was normal and maybe we'd flow. And again, that cuts back to that version of you line where it's like, and I say normal, like I've told you guys before, I struggle with mental illness stuff. And so like to say normal is like if I wasn't struggling with like mental illness and stuff and things like that. That's kind of how I thought it was, because that's unfortunately part of like the big thing of like how the relationship ended was my instability with my mental health. So more like self-deprecating, like if I was normal, we could be together. No, probably not. Because I'm not normal regardless. Cut me down to size with a knife. Your truth is burning my ears. I'm all right. And so, like, again, going back to that night, it's like everything that was said, all the like attacks, jabs that were done, it was hurting. But I was like, I'm all right. Like, it happened and I'm all right. And then I go into this weird little section. I don't know, because it's these three lines, I think I'm all right, I think I'm all right. Don't You Think You're Right were kind of like a little mini pre-chorus right before the last chorus. So I think it was just like me trying to be like, I'm all right, like I am all right, like this happened so long ago, I'm all right, I'm fine. And then it was like, don't you think you're right? Like, because you said all these things to me, you did all these things to me, it's like, you think you're right because of like, don't you think that? So much was said and there was like no resolution to it because we never like found like middle ground even after we broke up. So this last little section, it's just super short. It was supposed to be like just like an outro for the song. I think I'm all right to let you go. I bottled it up for 3 years or so. So again, at this point I think I've gotten it out of me, like with this song and like getting it out there. And again, I have a new medium to help me like put it out there more and help me get rid of it more. So now after 4 years, I think this resonates even more. And it's like, again, it's like with Dallas and like that kind of release off of my shoulders and my mind. It's like, I'm ready to let it go. Officially, fully. You wish I was normal and maybe we'd flow. And then these last sections is like, for a song, it works, especially with inflection, and I'll talk about inflection when I'm done with the breakdown. But even after all this, you might still love me, begging to have me back, ellipses, I know, but I'm ready to get on with the show. So, again, it's like, even after all this, you might still love me. Again, I was like, these reminiscing, like, what ifs keep coming back. Like, you're begging to have me back, and then, like, there's a break with that ellipses, and it's like, I know. So it's, like, basically saying, like, I'm saying all these things, but I have to, like, stop myself and be like, no, I know. I'm all right. Like, I'll go back to that. I'm all right. I know. It's not going to happen. Like, that's really what it was supposed to be like. It's like, I know it's not really going to happen. These are just the daydreams talking. But I'm ready to get on with the show. And a lot of times I'll put, like, weird theater like metaphors or imageries in there because I have a theater background, so it's fine. So that was a sweet release. It was, again, very interesting piece, and I don't know if anyone really caught on to it, but the inflection of how I read it was very like somber and sad, and I think I only did that because I think it matched the content of it. Like, I feel like if people think about this and like they read it, it kind of reads as sadder, because again, I'm just like reminiscing on like a what if of a failed relationship. And so I read it with the intention of it to be sad, but I'm not sad. I'm not sad, which is great because I can finally say that, like, I always like joke about like, oh, that relationship was stupid and like everything that we did was stupid, blah, blah, blah. But like, it happened, it was real, and I wish no ill will on anyone. But I thought it was fun to like have a different inflection in my reading versus like, I've been told sometimes that my reading comes across angry or aggressive. So I think it was a fun, change in direction for this piece. So thanks guys, that was my breakdown of A Sweet Release. More videos will be coming soon your way. And thanks again for stopping into the Hideaway. Writing tips. I have a good writing tip for this one. Especially with like songwriting, storytelling, things like that. I think it's great to take risk and like experiment with types of writing, because again, like I feel like I'm looking back at like the first section that I wrote, it painted a picture that was totally different than the rest of it. So you get to that first section and it's like, oh, we broke up, it never happened, and you're like, what? So I think it's obviously there's like probably better ways to do it or more exciting ways to do it, but again, I think subverting expectations and like it keeps readers interested because you don't know where the story's going to go at that point. And so I just don't be afraid to take a risk, and don't be afraid to write about breakups if you need to. If you get it on paper, you put some words into it and you get it out there and you talk about it.